The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
If you're building or buying or selling a home, the Real Estate Crew's got news for you at the Real Estate House Party.
With attorney Rick Carter,
Real Estate House Party.
paralegal Kathy Holtshouser,
Real Estate House Party. Come in, have fun.
and comedian Tony V. Now, here's real estate attorney Rick Carter.
Welcome and thanks for joining us here on the Real Estate House Party.
I'm so sad.
We don't have Tony V.
Yeah.
We're trying to get another someone to replace him, but might be halfway during the show. She's actually another attorney, first attorney we've ever had in the show. But let me ask you a trivia question first. Saturday Night Live. Who's the most has been on Saturday Night Live as a guest? You don't have to answer.
Currently or
Baldwin, right?
Right, very
Yep.
good. So you're our
who? Alec Baldwin?
Yeah.
You're our Alex Baldwin. You've probably been on
Alec.
this.
Okay.
Yeah. What did I say?
I said Alec because I'm still obsessed with the murder trials.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of murder, poor Mr. Baldwin, whatever his first name is, but we won't get into that. I was just saying, John Marroni, the Iceman.
Yeah, always says yes when we ask him.
So which Alec Baldwin am I? The early career, later on in life, or in mid when he's having problems? Which one am I?
Well, you wear a lot of hats, so I'm sure you can use whatever one you want today. You actually said you're gonna. We got a lot to ask you, but you said you might have some questions for us today.
I sure do.
So
I love questions.
I know we love questions there. So when she does come, we might have another attorney, Mary Beth Sweeney from Atwood and Cherney, I believe, right?
Yep.
But we'll introduce her. I'll let you introduce her. When
Where's
she
she
gets
out
here.
of?
They have an office in Boston, and she also has one in Andover.
Okay.
As well.
So you've been targeting, and before she gets here, maybe I'll ask you, Kathy will ask you a bunch of questions. The first one I have is, we have a lot of brokers who, there's not as much listings now. They're trying to be a little bit more creative on how to get listings.
Mm-hmm.
How would a broker get into the market to try to work with more divorced couples?
I would say to either partner with, I wouldn't say partner, I don't, because attorneys hate using that word partner, because now
Then you,
Right.
yeah, you got respiratory problems.
you know, be a resource.
Yeah.
There you go.
Or a referral
Yes.
based thing.
You know, for divorce attorneys, they even have divorce coaches as well, where they're not attorneys, but they're almost like therapists in terms of, you know, really they
So
coach.
who are they coaching? The brokers or
No.
the general public?
The general public, someone that's, you know, thinking of a divorce or in the middle of divorce.
Where do I start? What do I do?
What do I do? And what they'll do is they'll say, why don't you, they don't give them advice, but they'll say, next time you see your attorney, why don't you ask him about this or ask
Okay.
him about that? And
So kind of like a mentor along the road
Yeah,
of divorce.
exactly.
So there is a group out there that they could
Yeah.
get in touch with to do that, huh?
Absolutely. And in the whole, it could be everything. It has maybe dealing with children with special needs. What do you do? Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to move to this town. How about,
So
you know,
any variable involved in their particular divorce, they might
Yeah.
have.
Right.
So one thing I was thinking is they probably should get, because a lot of times attorneys want a mediator because the group, husband and wife can't get along with each other. So
And typically the divorce attorneys can't get along with each
Right,
other
exactly.
either,
So there's usually
by
a third
definition.
attorney
right.
involved.
So a mediator is not a divorce coach. That's something separate. But-
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. But a broker might want to get a hold of that mediator.
Without a doubt,
Yeah,
because the
yes.
mediator might say, listen, John and Susan.
Right.
Not you guys,
Wow.
but
That's funny. Yeah.
Susan, that was
How did
No,
you
I
pick?
see.
by coincidence.
No, I still like Susan.
Yeah, you've made that clear on other times, but and I like Susan too.
So that was just a normal
Yeah.
slip as
But it
opposed
says,
to,
like,
you
you
don't know
guys-
something we don't know at this
You
point.
guys
Glenn.
can't agree to this.
that
You
I
guys
know.
can't agree to this.
Okay.
I know a great real estate agent that handles divorces delicately.
Yeah.
So a mediator might do that very thing.
Yes.
So the mediator doesn't want each attorney wants to get their own broker, but then the other side doesn't want to do it because it's favoring that side. So so the
honestly,
mediator will say, "I don't want to hear either one of you. I'm going to get my own." Right. So then they might want to hook up with this mediator.
Well, right, and the other thing is that divorce attorneys do have brokers
Yes.
in their,
Repertoire,
yeah,
yes.
in their referral base there.
Yeah.
And the sooner you get on that, or if you can handle a divorce very delicately, because
Yeah.
it doesn't go as smoothly, typically as a normal seller situation.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was talking to a realtor yesterday. He out in the western part of the state, and he was saying, because I asked him, if you're working with the couple and you're representing both of them,
Yeah.
that you have that fine line of being impartial from one or the other. How do you handle that? He said,
Yeah.
well, he said, good question. He goes, we talk about it up front and just say, as we're going through the process, if you fail in being impartial either way, we need to just stop and then talk about what you think I may have done or whatever. So if he kind of senses that, he goes, all right, let's back up and let's,
And I think an easy way to do that would be to have the real estate agent meet both sellers, a husband and a wife that are going through a divorce, and have the emails be addressed to both of them.
Unless they don't want to, yeah.
No, but I think that, I'm guessing,
they'll tell you one way.
Here's an example.
The couples might say, just email me. So I just send them, because I run into this a lot too.
Yes.
And I usually the way I do it is kind of isolate myself. Listen, you guys you got divorce attorneys.
You tell me what to do.
I'm not doing anything with that. I'm not doing the math. I am literally here helping you on your sale and do that process. I'll get your deed. I'll get
and
your
that's
payoff.
what the real estate agent is doing.
Well, this is where it starts getting tricky. So they start going along that line. They're going to sell the house. And then let's say the husband wants to buy something, finds a house, puts an offer in. Now that's when it starts getting tricky because
that's for the divorce attorney.
He needs to sell this thing. And he
to
wants
buy this.
And he might just say, I don't even care how much we get on it. Let's just make a fire sale.
Yep.
And the other spouse is like, no, I
want my money.
Yep.
Yeah, and yet to get the realtor now, it's almost like a conflict right there because now they're representing the purchase of this. And, and
where they have conflicting attitudes on how they
but
want
honestly,
that process.
if you're paying a real estate agent $30,000 or whatever it may be, you have to be trust her or him to price your house to maximize your net proceeds, no matter what is going on, right?
Well, some realtors, what they'll do is, to avoid that, they'll have someone else in the office handle the purchase of another house. That way.
Right. So that would be that is tricky.
But you're still running the same situation because
you do.
No matter what other broker handles the purchase, he still has that objective. Just sell it.
Didn't we have this a couple, and they weren't even getting divorced. I think they were married. Remember, sign up the purchase and sale agreement. Why isn't the wife signed the purchase? And Rick would call the wife and say, well, you know what? I've decided not to sell. So Rick called the husband and say, can you get with your wife and talk about this?
That's a real good point. So if we were running our little seminar today, we would say, you guys got to be on board. If you're not on board, you're going to direct it to the divorce attorneys and let us know. And it's always at the very end, the little dollar amounts there, who gets the oil adjustment. Well, I paid the oil, so I should get the whole thing reimbursed to me. Whereas some of the mediators say, no, you got to put that right on the settlement statement, and then we'll decide what to do.
Right.
I go, all right, you let me know what you want to do. The other one is when you pay off your mortgage, you get
the escrow
money
right.
back.
Oh, right. Yeah. Who splits that?
Who splits that?
You need to put that in the divorce decree
exactly.
because if you don't
they don't think of that.
Right.
You can they're in contempt of court.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, here's another thing that people don't think of is, let's say the wife wants to get pre-approved for a mortgage and just kind of figure out.
We got a million questions for that for you too.
So let's say she hasn't even told her husband that she's thinking of a divorce. If I pull a credit, there's this thing called trigger leads.
Yeah.
And depending on whose phone number's on file, the husband may be getting calls from lenders left and right saying, hey, you're looking to refinance. He'd be like, what?
That's the least of his problems.
Right, but he's going to be told that's how he finds out.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we've had some people find some interesting stuff just looking at the application. Not quite as bad as that, but
the credit cards.
Oh, the credit cards.
Does my husband have to see this?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he does.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's
Isn't that called financial infidelity? Where you're racking up credit card bills and your husband doesn't know anything about it?
Yeah.
So here's a question that we'll get it because we're trying to keep it in the real estate world. I'm sure Mary Beth, when she gets here, can tell some tips on. So how does someone in your mortgage world help themselves protect? So in other words, mortgage payments or actually other payments, credit card payments, how does the spouse avoid having it affect their particular situation? Do you make sure that the one spouse only pays it out of their funds? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. So it's always going to be on the credit report. So let's just assume it's always paid on time.
Because they both signed it. Right.
Yes, that's right. So if someone wants to buy something where the debt doesn't affect their debt ratio or anything like that, in the divorce decree, you can just spell out the exact credit card. Make sure you put the account number, exactly what it is. Same thing with the mortgage.
And that's good enough?
Yep.
Just put in the divorce decree?
Yeah, once it's finalized by the judge immediately.
Once it's in the divorce decree and filed, it's
Right.
it needs to follow through.
Right.
So you're both having good points, because a lot of we see a lot of separation agreements.
They haven't gotten to
They don't put that in there.
Yeah, they have to.
I know, in a lot.
Well, it's a separation agreement.
Yeah, they put like maybe a general statement. Yeah.
I was just going to say they have a general statement. The husband will pay all the credit cards off, but I'm not
No,
sure.
you get to spell every to the
Right.
account number, to the last digit.
Okay, because I never see that.
Yeah.
and
Right.
we've read millions of separation.
Oh, except for the guy, the divorce we were reviewing, and I get to keep the red cooler, and you get the yellow cooler,
yeah.
and we
yeah.
were just dying laughing at the pettiness of it.
Yeah,
you get to keep the couch with the hole in the cushion, and I get the couch with the...
You know, as it becomes principal at some point, and we've had a closing. I forgot who it was. If it was the husband and wife talking about this, or I actually think that the buyer was so irked at the sellers said, "All right, you have to leave the picture that was on the kitchen." They say, "Well, no, my kid made that picture." "Nope, I'm not buying the house unless you leave that picture."
What?
It was unbelievable. I know.
Really?
Yeah. It was just a little cartoon thing, but they were just trying to. He was just trying to bust chops so much. I said, "Oh my God, this is what we resort to now." Yeah. So so that took the longest debate. Should we give in to this when he's just being a buster at this point there? So all right.
The one thing I asked John off air.
Wait, hold on 1 second.
Oh.
If in that case the divorce is decree's final, and then you're like, "Oh, is it too late?" It's not too late. It's just that you probably have to wait 12 months now, assuming that the wife is paying the payments for 12 months out of her account. Make sure you're no longer on her account, because if you're on her account, then it's still as though that you're making the payment.
Don't you have to refinance that?
If you want to be off the mortgage, you have to.
Right, because it affects your debt to...
No, it won't. So if we put the language in the divorce decree that she's responsible, yes, it's still on your credit report, but in the mortgage world, we don't have to debt you for it.
Oh, I see.
If it's not in the divorce decree, we got to show 12 months payment.
Oh, okay.
And it doesn't matter who paid it.
No, she's got to pay it.
No, but... Okay, I see.
And it's going to come out of her account. We got to
Okay,
prove
I see.
that
Okay,
she made
yeah.
the payment.
So one or the other. That's interesting. So one or the other. So if you put it right in the divorce decree
From day one.
from day one, you save.
So you can go off and buy a new house.
Right. So even if, let's say you...
Oh, Johnny, we're firing all
no,
sorts of
keep
stuff.
coming. It's like fastball.
He loves being challenged.
I was at the batting cages
He's
the other
stuck
day.
in-
This
I'm
is
ready.
bad because me and her are asking you questions.
No,
and
along
you're
that line-
repelling both as we yell out to you.
Let's say two people, they own a house together. They were never married, whatever, and one just wanted to move on, and the other one wanted to keep the house. In that case, keep the mortgage. Just show that the person that's keeping the house making the payments out of that person's
Right,
account.
right.
12 months, no longer have to debt you for it.
Right.
One more thing along that line: a parent co-signs for a student loan or a
Yep.
car loan.
Yep.
Have the payments come out of the child's account for 12 months.
Right.
Make sure the parent's not on that checking account, and you're
Even if you're giving him the money.
they're not going to check where the source of
Right.
is going into.
Right.
They just want the cancel checks or show that it's been
Not
paid.
that we're implying to be misleading at all.
I
right?
am.
This is that's a trigger and a disclaimer.
Trigger.
The
Chrissy,
thoughts
can we
of-
delete any of this stuff today?
The thoughts of John Marroni do not reflect
And they're not my
the
thoughts
thoughts
either.
of Carter Law Office.
They're not my thoughts either.
All right, here's another one. Since, again, we're back into the lending world.
I really thought it was my turn to ask a question, but go ahead.
Oh, we decided, Johnny. Let me know if you think this is a good idea.
All right.
I'm thinking of getting a gavel every time she talks.
Out of turn.
Like if she gets 6 questions in a row before any of us get some in, at some point we got to give her a gavel.
I know, but this will break.
Well, I was going to say, you need
All
something
right.
heavy duty.
All right, so we won't do
hammer.
that. But something, maybe a bell or something like that, or we used to request her to raise her hand.
I know, but that never worked.
It
Everyone
never
just
worked
like,
because she fired out stuff anyway there. I know.
They said, you can't talk. It's not your turn.
All right,
I
go
said, but my
ahead.
hand was up.
That's right. That's right.
You go ahead
You know what it is?
first.
It's almost like the person with the blinker in the car,
Yeah.
and they're flying
I got the
down each
blinker,
lane. You
yeah.
still have the blinker. What do you
I
mean
have
I
my
cut you
blinker
off?
on.
I cut you off, but I had the blinker. Right. All right, go ahead. Ask your question. But
Because
you have better short-term memory. If I don't get these questions out, I'm on
Then
to the
go
next
ahead.
one. All right. This one is, we always have problems with where you might child support. I had this. It was a very bad situation where the girl came in and
Yes.
says, I got $2,000 a month in
Yes.
child support. And
Right.
then she was qualified that. Luckily, we were representing the seller. She goes, I get $2,000 a month in child support. Of course, when they do, do their review, of course, it's not $2,000. It's $1,500 one month, $2,500 the next month. Some was in cash.
I think that was one of your loans, like way back.
No, because I represent.
No,
it was. You might
we
have got
had
one
that.
too.
We had that same deal, and it didn't matter if she got child support for like $12,000. Just say $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
She wouldn't get it in December or January, but then she'd get $2,000 in February, and then get nothing in March, and then $2,000 more. So
sometimes
you
it
were
was
like
cash. Sometimes it was all over the place.
right. So you're like, I got to document 12 consistent payments,
Yeah,
right?
you do. But now they're starting to lighten up a little, and they're starting to do an average.
Because think about that.
So that makes sense. That would make more sense,
That would make more
right?
sense.
Yeah,
but this girl was getting I think it was $2,000 a month. So that's a big chunk with it. If she wasn't getting now all of a sudden $24,000 a year, her income's way down. So
$2,000 a month plus we can gross it up because of the taxes. So now we're up to like $2,400 a month.
Yeah.
For qualifying income.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Well, the thing about child support too, you got to be careful. Whereas if you have a child that's maybe a sophomore in high
College
school,
age, right? Yeah, we've run into that.
yeah, we're not going to use that. Like
Because it's 2 years away, right?
Yeah, because like in Massachusetts, it says 18 years or fully emancipated, and then they'll say, well, he's got a full scholarship to Boston College. And underwriters just assume that the kid's going to, find him, go off the deep end and not finish college. So
Right.
they just assume worst case, and they use.
What kid would do that?
I know. they use. You never know.
Story for another show.
Yeah.
Unless you have nice brothers and sisters and parents
Right,
that help
right,
you
right.
out along the way.
So with that being said, go ahead.
This is my turn. This is
ahead.
my show.
Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead.
So I asked Johnny.
Maybe we can have Chrissy shut off one of our.
she's already
Silent
shut.
the mic.
Yeah.
She's already silent.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, one of the questions that I asked Johnny off air was, one of the questions that comes up is, should like a husband and wife are separated, getting ready to divorce, the divorce is not final, they're still hammering stuff out. You should not buy a house before the divorce decree is final and sent into the judge for signature, because if you do, you're separated and you buy a new house, that becomes marital assets.
Yeah.
And it can be argued, that not really isn't really, but
or it could be argued. I mean, where did she get the money to buy that?
exactly. That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Like, where do the funds come from? So,
It had to be from.
Even if they both agree,
Right.
the judge might not agree.
Right.
So at the end of the day, the agreement still needs to be signed off by the judge.
Right. So when you are getting divorced, one of the big things is don't go purchase anything.
No.
And typically, when you file for divorce, your assets, in theory, should be frozen, like pretty frozen outside of your,
It's actually a good point. They're actually in Massachusetts. There should be an automatic stay on everything.
Well, there is an automatic. Well, it's a verbal automatic stay. It's not.
More than
Well,
verbal.
you're
Like you're not supposed to sell that property if you're in the middle of a divorce. You have an
Right.
automatic stay. So,
But no one can stop you from buying something.
well, no one actually ends up stopping you because what you do is have both attorneys agree, all the parties agreeing, you're
Yeah.
both signing the deed. So that automatic stay.
is gone. But checking accounts, you can't be moving money, opening up
Right.
new accounts, and
Right.
outside of like paying for your attorney's fees and
Right.
and like moving costs and stuff like that. Like anything that you need to pay out that would help the process along
is okay. And back to your other. So you were saying if a sophomore in high school.
Yeah, because it has to show 3 years of continuance, 36 months.
So they're thinking.
So there's that.
Yeah.
There's that. He's 2 years, or he or she is 2 years away.
Because they're getting the full scholarship as a freshman in college.
But that doesn't matter. I mean, it's just, so usually in a case like that, they want to see birth certificates. I had a closing that I think I made it by a month.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do you
And it's from the time of application.
So do you find that connecting with a divorce attorney has helped you help divorcing people move on?
Yeah, you've given a lot of resources.
I'm having them use me as a resource. And
why don't you tell us a couple things you're going to be doing coming up?
Yeah, so there's in May I got invited to speak to Massachusetts Mediation Association.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where is that at?
It's in Wellesley Wellesley Library. The library.
Yeah?
Yep, it's their
You're
annual
fancy.
meeting.
You're getting fancy in your old age, Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get lucky.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just because I connected with one attorney who actually
Told John never to call again.
So I took that as a dare, and I did.
You guys know each other?
Yeah.
He had told me the story. So
and
yeah.
They tell you not to call, and then you call every day.
I know.
And I just
you're right. It's almost like, did you say call all the time?
Yeah.
Instead of not
no,
calling
I
at all.
said LMN, lose my number.
And I just showed him how I could be a resource for he and his clients, and he sent out like weekly articles to him, and he liked the articles, and he shared it to his network, and one of the guys the president of that mediation association saw it and said, if you're
are they your articles?
Yeah, well,
kinda.
Yeah,
well,
from my association.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Items of value.
But it's a niche that a lot of people don't have.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's all about strategies. Like someone might say, what's the difference? You're a loan officer. What's the difference between another loan officer? I said, well, it's kind of like a carpenter, right? They both have the same tools in their box, and you have one that's like a finish master carpenter that does unbelievable finish work, and you have one that does the rough, he does the framing and all that.
But he can't take it over the
right.
line.
And if you want your kitchen done over, who are you going to call?
Right.
Probably the finish guy. He's like the expert. They both have the same tools, but that's like his area of expertise, and that's where he's focusing.
But the thing, I think your biggest asset right now is concentrating on this niche that you have, because then the word of mouth is going to carry you through, because it's not a common, like a lot of lenders or loan officers will focus on FHA loans or VA loans, and they get really good at that, right?
Yeah.
And then they get referrals or.
Well, just the thought that you want to do one thing very well, and that's what you do.
Well, right, and stay educated and help other people stay educated.
You give tips to these divorce attorneys, and you've told us one of the tips before, and this might have a little bit of accounting involved in it, where they own a house and a second home.
Yeah.
Maybe strategize with that.
Because there was a couple that right away they say we're going to sell everything, split everything.
Oh yeah.
And I said, second home in Plymouth, you're going to pay all this capital gains tax. Husband's moving out. I go, you work in Boston. Why don't you just live there for a couple of years as your primary, then sell?
Right.
And they save a boatload in capital gains taxes.
And it may have taken a little while for them to come to get used to that.
And the attorneys don't look at it that way.
Of course they don't.
Because they're focusing on putting together the decree, the agreement, so that everything
gets separated.
Well, everyone does their field.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because you got you have pieces of the puzzle. So there's
right. Want me to hold it up?
Sure. So you got the divorce.
Of course, he's saying, "Oh my God."
I know. Zoom in.
How do we zoom in?
So here's the divorce.
Yep. And you got the family law.
Mm-hmm.
So they take care of all the legal part. The property itself. The realtors, the divorce
estate.
planning where I come in, and then there's the tax, financial and tax implication.
Yeah.
So you got to put the pieces together, and you think about this, right? So you have a couple that's going through the amazing emotional distress portion of their life, right? And you're asking them to do that themselves, and they're probably not an expert in any of those areas.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're just you go, all right, have at it.
Well, and they're not making educated decisions because they're based on emotion as opposed to facts.
Yeah, and that's just. That's just around the real estate. Forget about when the children are involved and what's going to go on with those.
Without a doubt.
So there's all that.
Right.
When I took family law in law school, she was actually very good. She was just a very decent person, and she says, "Listen, don't go in there just trying to get the divorce, which a lot of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She says your first goal should be to try to get them all back together again and I don't think a lot of attorneys do that at all. So,
Well, one of my counterparts, part of this association, so it's nationwide. She had a realtor out in California that was working with a divorcing couple, and she was, advocating for them to get divorced, to hurry up and sell the house.
oh really?
Yeah, putting her interest first.
I think by the time you call a lawyer,
Yeah, you're
pretty much
there.
you're
Yeah.
pretty much there,
Yeah.
and then you write a $5,000 check for the first down payment.
Right. So in Massachusetts, I think it's more of a formula these days. Like you had one question on how do you evaluate the equity in the house and all that.
Yeah, there's two things. I mean, if you call a realtor is going to tell you what they can get for the
market
house.
value.
Right.
Where a bank appraiser will appraise it based on what's recently sold in the area. That's
But
similar
what
to
does
the
that
house.
really? Oh, that doesn't come into play when you sell it. Only if someone's going to keep it.
Right, or if they're going to do an equity buyout.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
one of
That
the
too.
spouses is going to keep it, but it doesn't come into play if you guys have decided to sell it.
No, or the only time it would come into play is like, all right, you're going to sell it after the fact, and I'm moving on.
Right.
Some people just want to just move on, and
Right.
because say you could sell it. I'm giving you the house. Get whatever
Yeah.
you want for it. We think it's worth this, and then so the question is, how do you value that?
Right.
You doing a broker price opinion from a realtor or a bank appraisal?
All
What
right.
would you do if you were the
Well-
one that was giving the house?
Well, yeah. I mean, you go to the direction that is advantageous.
Of course.
The assessed value.
You know.
Oh, I actually think it should just be one of those drive-bys, right?
Right.
Like the drive-by
Oh
appraisal.
yeah. Drive-by and desktop.
Yeah, desktop.
I'm sure Tony V would have a thought on that. Just throw your numbers in the middle here and
Yeah, and just have a mud fight.
I had a
right?
mud fight
Yeah.
about it there. So,
Yeah.
so while we have you both here, let's talk. We only have a few minutes left.
We have 3 minutes.
Let's talk about what we're seeing in the industry, in the real estate world, and in the lending world. I see a little bit more. It's
Are we
coming
starting
around.
to see some sunshine?
Yeah, exactly. We keep calling it percolating out there. So
We're starting to see a little bit of
Yeah,
action
yeah.
and some P&Ss coming, purchase and sales coming our way.
yeah.
We're actually starting to see some refinances.
Yep. Are
And
you
so
seeing
people-
rates coming down a little bit? So people
Tiny
A little
bit?
bit. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little
What's
bit.
your prognosis? You think maybe the end of the year, all these people who definitely close in the sevens are going to be giving people a call. I'm hoping they're down in the lower fives because we're seeing them hitting the fives now.
Yeah.
I know we shouldn't talk about interest rates.
And the thing with interest rates is we were so spoiled for 2 or 3 years
Right,
that
right.
5% isn't so bad.
No, it's not. I mean,
But compared to your 2%,
Sean,
it's
usually
bad.
a lot more positive than that. Yeah,
No,
5%
no,
is great.
it's wonderful.
I can do anything.
That's right.
I
it's
said
not
it's-
no. It's just maybe not in that right now.
Yeah, it's
Right.
not no. It's just not now.
No, it's just you just caught me in a thought.
Okay.
I thought I smelled something burning.
I know. You did.
And that was
you did
this.
have that look on you like you were thinking
No,
about
because I
something
just
there.
remember a conversation I was having with someone about the rates being, above 6 and all that. And
So you were just pretty much ignoring the questions we were firing
No,
at you. 'cause
no.
You were thinking of some other conversation. Go ahead.
I didn't even hear any questions.
Honestly, I still think it's a good time to buy a house.
Well, and I'll tell you why.
Okay, go ahead.
With the rates high, because I was telling someone, I go, on the flip side, the silver lining of the rates being so high is you have that much less competition.
Exactly.
Without
I
a
said-
doubt, walking into
Yeah, because I
a
said if you wait for the rates to drop back down, now you're going to have like twice the amount of people being able to make
Right,
offers on
right.
the house. So you can, the rates will drop. So just, I go, let's back up and just first, why do you want to buy the house? And they're going to give all the
Right.
reasons first. I said, all right, great, let's focus on that.
Right.
And then you're okay with the payment, but you can't get over the fact that interest rate is this.
even though the payment is in your wheelhouse, like
Right.
even though that was something
Right.
in your head that this is what I want. Maybe you're getting a little bit less of a house because the rates are high.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't change your plan not to buy a house.
Right.
Right.
And
Because
plus
you
like-
still have those reasons why you need to buy a house. There's nothing to do with the interest rate.
Yeah, and
Right.
some of these people.
It's not like
Yeah.
that's what someone told me once. It's not really an investment. If you're buying a principal residence,
Yeah.
it's because you're moving there. You got a new job.
Without a doubt.
You now got married. You got more.
Right.
It's,
You need more space. You need another bathroom. Like
right.
whatever.
Right.
It's-
Yes, it's better to buy a house with the lower interest rate, but you still have all those
You
factors.
still have that
involved.
need. You
Right,
still have that
right.
need
I always
for
say
housing.
this where, not our generation, but maybe right before us when they're buying in 13, 14 to 18%, we used to hear, I would have loved to bought that because they're selling the houses for $45,000.
Yes.
Right.
Whereas rates came down to 3%, and those prices of the house skyrocketed.
Right.
I'd rather go the other way as opposed to buying too high. I'd rather buy when the interest rates are too high as opposed to the house values.
Well, and I even tell people, because some of these people, they don't even flinch about $4,000 a month, because that's what they're paying for rent. So,
Right.
You're right. Rent's out of crazy.
Right.
If you're doing your house over, new construction costs are crazy.
Right.
Lumber.
I say to them, I said, listen, around here inside the 495 belt, the prices are not dropping, right? They'll probably go up. Let's just say they go up 1%, right? Your $600,000 house. Next year, it's another $6,000.
Right. They're not going up as steadily as they were.
And then some people will say, 1%. It's probably more like 3%. I said, all right, great. 18,000.
Right.
It
doesn't really mean anything at that point.
Right. And then you want to save up 20%. And then so that 18,000. So now you have to come up with another $4,000 on top of that other. And I go, you're never going to catch up. Or you go buy your house. You can paint the walls any color you want. You can have your dog, that dog that you want. Just let him roam around. Fence yard, all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So we put a positive spin.
And I actually think, speaking of the positive spin, I think right after Easter, and a lot of brokers are telling me they think they have a lot of sellers saying we just want to get through Easter, then we're going to. Which they normally start a little earlier, but
I just think it was a weird
is a little bit, very weird.
Well, you're not nervous about inflation or recession, but people are starting to see that it's not really changing the housing market.
I heard a statistic. In the last 78 years, the price of homes dropped 7 times.
Wow.
7 times. Imagine having
then.
1 year it didn't drop at all, right?
And we lived through one of them, right? 2008. We lived through that.
So imagine having a record of 70 wins, 7. I'll take that anytime.
I'll take that all the time there. So that's
all right, we got to go.
All right. John Marroni.
All right.
Where do you work now? Tell the world.
Tell them, scream it out. I work at a company. It's called Draper and Kramer Mortgage.
Yes, they're awesome.
And you have
to
phone
get a
numbers
hold
at all?
of me, to get a hold of me, just Google me, John Marroni, John space Marroni. Hit enter.
Kathy Holtshouser, where are you now? Forget it. You too.
Just call Rick at 781-944-7000 and you'll get him directly.
Oh, that's actually
we
don't give that number out a lot there.
Really?
Thank you, John Marroni.
But don't call me.
And Kathy Holtshouser from Carter Real Estate Law. And thanks for joining us here on the Real Estate House Party. We'll see you next week.
Woo!
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.